Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly, and our topics this week: apparently no stop signs for streetcars, no stopping the drive for tax hikes, and Kansas City criminals, get ready for your close-up. Body cameras are coming. Plus, of course, roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and focus on People to People International. Based in Kansas City, the organization, founded by President Dwight Eisenhower, just celebrated its 60th anniversary with a major event in downtown Kansas City. The CEO is also an Eisenhower, Mary Eisenhower, granddaughter of the 34th president. The Eisenhower name has been in the news in recent days because of the anniversary event, and also because a long-standing dispute over how to honor the late president has finally been resolved. To talk with me about those matters and much more is Mary Eisenhower, PTPI CEO. That's right, isn't it? PTPI CEO. Welcome to the program. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And congratulations on your 60th anniversary. How was the event last weekend? A success?
It was wonderful. Truly meaningful, and we really enjoyed the support of the Kansas City community. It was very important to us. And
you were at the downtown Marriott, were you not?
We were in the historic Muehlbach.
Yeah, that's a great facility.
Yeah.
If you're talking to someone who has heard the name of the organization but really is not sure what it does and says, Ms. Eisenhower, Mary, what does People to People International do? What's your quick response?
My kind of elevator response is we do humanitarian, cultural, and educational exchanges outside of government, hoping to create a lasting world peace.
All right.
That's
simple enough, isn't it, to create world peace?
Right.
Your grandfather began this while he was president, I believe, using some federal dollars. And then when he left the White House, he wanted this to continue, but outside the government, and needed private financial support. That's how the Kansas City connection came to be, right?
That's correct. He was very good friends with J.C. Hall, founder of Hallmark Cards. And he was coming through, he had already approached several foundations for help. And you've got to remember that was on the tail end of the McCarthy era. Mm-hmm. And they replied no, because they thought that this whole peace through understanding thing was psychological warfare. And so he was venting to his dear friend Joyce. And Joyce said, well, I'll finance it, but I don't do anything outside of Kansas City. So we moved from Washington, D.C. to Kansas City right then.
And that connection still exists, doesn't it?
Very much, very much.
If I recall correctly, your office is at Crown Center.
It is.
Yeah. You were quite young when your grandfather died, but I know you spent some time with him. Do you have any particular recollections of your grandfather and your time visiting with him at the White House or elsewhere?
Many, actually. I was 14 when he passed, and I was 6 when he got out of office. Yeah. But I still remember, the White House vividly. And it was kind of different because, I just thought it was his house, and things like that. So I just didn't realize he was anything special until I got into school and people quit asking me how I was. They asked how he was.
It seems to me that historians have been revising their opinion of his administration over the years, as historians often do about presidents as they get farther removed in time from the administration. And no more do you read about President Eisenhower more interested in playing golf than running the executive branch. In fact, I think historians are unanimous in saying that he was a very effective hands-on administrator.
Actually, he was, and I think the revelation of that, so to speak, was when his papers started becoming declassified, and they said, "Whoa!" They started seeing the real core of the Cold War and things like that, and realized he was not only extremely active, but he was kind of like a duck. He was very quiet on the top and pedaling like heck underneath.
There were problems, obviously, in that era, 1953 and 1961, but by and large, when people talk about the good old days, part of those good old days were during the Eisenhower administration.
Well, and it's not that Granddad was not transparent. He was very transparent in what he was doing. However, he also was almost grandfatherly towards the nation. He protected people because he wanted them to have that era of prosperity and security.
He was a great general, a five-star general, I believe, general of the Army, led the Allied forces to victory in World War II. One quick final question. There was some controversy with you and other members of the family about a memorial and the way the designer wanted it to be. You got that resolved, right?
We not only got it resolved, but all four, the living children
Right.
have now joined the advisory board of the commission.
Okay.
And that's a milestone. That's after 19 years of going back and forth.
And it's going to be in Washington, D.C. Will
It
depict
is.
parts of General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower's life, including his childhood in Kansas,
That's correct.
his work in the military, and then, of course, his years in the White House.
Right.
One final quick question. You must have websites if anybody wants more information about People to People International. Just Google it and you'll find all sorts of ways to get information.
And our website's very simple. It's PTPI, like peopletopeopleinternational.org.
That is simple. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
That is People to People International CEO Mary Eisenhower. Now let's meet the panel and see if we can start a ruckus. Cynthia Wheeler is a marketing strategist. Steve Rose is a Johnson County civic leader and Kansas City Star columnist. Patrick McInerney is a former prosecutor, now in private legal practice at Spencer Fane. And Patrick Toohey is field manager at the Show Me Institute, a libertarian think tank. The night of the Patricks is upon us. Thanks to all of you for coming in. Talk finally turned to action, and Kansas City, Missouri police have begun a 90-day trial period testing the viability of body cameras. The sad carnage caused by shooting deaths by and of law enforcement officials nationwide apparently was the catalyst. There's nothing new in the metro area about the cameras. They've been in use for a while by the Clay County Sheriff's Department and Lenexa Police, among others. And Kansas City, Kansas has recently approved funding for body cam acquisition. But after all the national controversy about officer-involved fatal shootings, is there still doubt about the need for police body cameras? Let's start with a former member of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Board, Mr. McInerney.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. The question really is, where do we go from here? Because body cameras are, I think, probably a second step in this process. Dash cams were the first. But quickly, it's going to lead to integration with other technology, I would imagine. Things like indicators about holsters, indicators about weather conditions. You may even wind up down the road, not too far down the road, with real-time instruction being given to police officers based on a feed that comes from the body cam. So there's a lot of issues to get our arms around. I think they're here. I know they're here to stay. I think they are not a panacea, certainly, as we've seen, because they don't always show exactly what you want them to show. And remember this, they're also going to be an investigative tool. So if you happen to be caught on a body cam during some sort of a random stop, facial recognition software is easy to get and it's easy to integrate into those systems.
You say it's here to stay, but the police department said this is a 90-day trial period and the decision will be made later. What possible reason could there be not to keep them?
Well, it's a matter of usage and how they're integrated into police officers. There's a big training issue. There's a data storage issue.
Data storage
Yeah,
and
several
policy.
things.
I spoke to Chief Forte this morning, and there's some policy issues. And I think I agreed with him when he talked about when he initially came on board as Daryl Forte being appointed to chief, he wanted to do the body cams, but he didn't want to rush into it. And I think when you look at the research from the Brennan Institute, which was written about in the Washington Post, you find that policy is important as it relates to the body cams. So if you don't have secure policy, why rush in and put in body cams? Your whole goal is transparency. You also have a secondary issue that we're not talking about, which is cameras all over the place. I mean, if you go to the UK, you have CTVs all over the city. Now we have apps that people are building. I discovered one yesterday in researching. Fusion Network did a big story on an app called Hands Up, and it literally secretly records your experience with the police. So, you know, transparency is important, but building a policy that speaks to the community, I think, makes all the difference in the world.
I agree with that.
But Steve, they have body cameras in various parts of Johnson County. Are there any reasons to think it won't work in Kansas City, Missouri?
No, they've had them for years. As a matter of fact, Mike, I think we talked about it on this show literally years ago when the Ferguson thing first broke out, and we were talking about body cameras then, and I talked then to the sheriff and to the Lenexa police, and they had no problem with it at all. As a matter of fact, I think we all know that one of the big benefits of it is that when there's a complaint filed against the police, that the body camera in 93% of the cases exonerates the police officer who was complained against. So I think that, if nothing else, that will bring the community together with the police, which I think everybody's talking about now is the key element to resolving a lot of this police.
And that's a key point, because if you talk to the Office of Citizen Complaints, Community Complaints with the police department, they'll tell you the same thing. And the cops on the ground, FOP 99 says here, Brad Lemon, the president of FOP here, says they support them. There's a lot of issues that come along with it, but they support them.
So if these body cameras are put into Operation Patrick and remain, will that then end the concerns of minorities and others about the way police departments behave?
No, of course not. There are an awful lot of things. As Patrick said, this is not a panacea. I'm interested to look at some of the bigger police unions in the country, New York and California, where they have balked a little bit. They want extra pay in some cases. They worry about due process for police officers. Is this video going to be released in the middle of an investigation?
And who can see it?
Right, who can see it? And then the other question is, and the research will tell us this, but will this impact people calling the police? For example, if you're in the middle of a domestic dispute, are you less likely to call the police if, in fact, a camera crew is showing up to your house? Will there be protections for children? Will there be protections if, for example, no charges are filed? What happens to all that video? So this is a good thing. It's coming, but we need to make sure a lot of the fine points are taken care of.
And in a city that spends as much money as Kansas City, Missouri does on streetcars and TIFs and SIDS, is there any financial legitimate reason to say the police department can't afford body cameras?
I mean, they'll have to determine this, and this right now is a municipal
But I mean,
issue.
isn't the cost secondary?
Well, no. I mean, the desire for it may be primary, but the cost is you can't do it if you can't afford it.
And all this underscores the real role of the police board right now in looking at the entire picture, developing some policies that address the concerns that Pat just mentioned, the concerns that Cynthia mentioned, and integrating an overall policy
And
for these
some
cameras.
of those concerns were alleviated by the bill that Nixon signed in terms of what recording could happen in homes and schools. And I think that is one of the reasons the police department sort of held back on making its decision. They didn't want to put cameras out there and then pull them back off the street.
My concern is that we're running too long on this segment and have to move on. There seems to be no stopping the Kansas City streetcar system. It barely opened before plans were announced to create a second transportation development district running to the plaza in UMKC. Once those plans got approval for further study, the downtown district announced it needed additional streetcars and hoped to extend its line north to Berkeley Riverfront Park. So some questions arise. Is streetcar mania real or the product of hype? How popular would the streetcar be if it weren't free to ride? Can the success of streetcars be properly evaluated after only 5 months of operation? But let's start with this one. Are streetcars the catalyst for Kansas City's future economic success? We start with Cynthia.
If the existing car is an example, and the positive news we're getting in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Huffington Post about what a great city it is, and it tends to be spotlighted as one of the reasons why, then the answer would simply be yes. However, is 5 months enough to assess the value, and then based on the direction they want to take it?
Is 5 months enough?
I don't necessarily believe it is, but someone might disagree with me. And determining whether or not you wanted to take it to the river front area versus the plaza where you have your flow of traffic becomes an issue, but I do believe it belongs in the hands of the people. I don't believe it becomes an issue of a small group of folks who determine where it goes. So I'm all for the voting for it, but I'm certainly encouraging voting for
a small group will determine whether it goes to
I understand
the
that,
south,
but you're asking
and-
me what I
yeah.
think, and I'm sharing with
You want
what
a
I think.
citywide vote.
I think it would be nice for a citywide vote if you're going to go through those areas and it affects the entire city. However, we need to learn to grow, and I think that the people of the city need to determine, are we going to continue to move ahead in the future, or are we going to sit back and think that the way we've continued to operate it is going to be in our best interest?
Mr. Toohey, let me ask you the same question.
Sure.
Are streetcars the catalyst for the city's economic future success?
No. If you look at the
Can
information...
you be specific?
Absolutely.
Is that a no?
If you look at the information available to us here in Kansas City, in Jackson County, Jackson County's own property value information tells us that the land value, the aggregate land value in the streetcar TDD is lower today than it was in 2014. What happens in these cities is they build a streetcar, but they lard all sorts of subsidies along the route. And it is those subsidies that result in the property development that we see. You get new buildings. What you don't get in these places are new jobs, new wealth creation. At best, what a city can do is move jobs from one
So
part
Patrick,
to another.
what do the buildings house? Nothing? I
Well,
mean, don't they house businesses
let's
that
talk
generate
about that.
taxes? Don't they
let's
house
not talk about
apartments?
it right now, because I want to ask this.
They
But
don't, as a matter
Steve,
of fact.
there was an article I sent all of you from Tony's Kansas City, popular website. I know some of you will say you don't believe anything that's on there, but some of the articles are quite interesting and substantive. And this one says that the usage of streetcars by the numbers of people is far less in cities of comparable or larger size than Kansas City. And some of the people who write into the website were questioning the way the riders are counted in Kansas City. Do you think that's a legitimate concern, or do you think people are just being cynical?
Well, I recall when everybody said there were 800,000 people at Union Station for the World Series, and I never believed that number because it was basically one out of 3 people in Kansas City. That's not true. There were never that many. But in this case, they say they're using sensors. And unless the sensors are flawed, they seem to be, they're there to count the number of bodies that walk on the streetcars. I doubt seriously if this thing is so hyped. I mean, there may be some deviation from the reality a little bit. But when they're saying there's 6,000 riders a day, if they're wrong by half, there's still more people than people ever expected to ride the streetcar. Yes, part of it is because it's free. And I think that the economic development factor is a little bit too early to judge. I was just talking to somebody who has a restaurant downtown that was limping along, who now is booming because the streetcar stops near his outfit. So I think it's a really early time to measure whether the economic development.
Anytime you're using Tony's readers and their comments as a source, you got a problem.
That's a
I mean, that's right. So because we've all read those and then we stopped reading them.
You
for a
mean I
reason.
can't trust the ones that like ruckus?
All love to Tony, right? But yeah. So I think we do have to tie that line to economic development, not what was there and not what was in process, but I think we have to take a hard look at the economic development. I'm also a little bit disappointed that the schedule's been pushed off because I think it presumes that voters in April can't handle 2 big ideas, can't handle a bond issue and can't handle streetcar expansion. It's a little bit disappointing. Whether ridership is going to plunge, don't know. 5 months and they've really knocked the roof off of it so far.
It's been nice warm weather too.
It
Cold
has.
weather is coming.
Yeah, and so I think the next 3, 4, 5 months are going to be a real good snapshot.
All right, got to move on. There are many differences between Kansas City, Missouri and Johnson County, Kansas. But there is at least one clear-cut similarity. Their residents are often asked to pay more taxes. Kansas City, Missouri residents will soon be asked to increase property taxes to fund $800 million worth of infrastructure improvements, including a new animal shelter at Swope Park. In Johnson County, residents will be asked to hike sales taxes by 1/4 cent to provide $400 million over 10 years. If approved, that tax increase would pay primarily for a new courthouse and coroner's facility. The remaining money, roughly $145 million, would be given to Johnson County cities to use as they see fit. In a recent column in the Star, Steve Rose offered his support to the Johnson County plan. So, Steve, why a sales tax and not a property tax in Johnson County?
Oh, well, the main reason for that, Mike, is because 1/4 of the money that comes in from a sales tax comes from outside of Johnson County. So a lot of people in political positions think that that's a smarter way to raise funds. Since everybody's going to end up using it from the whole metro area if they involve themselves in the courthouse. This courthouse was built back in 1952. There were only 60,000 people who lived in Johnson County at that time. Today there are well over 560,000 people who live in Johnson County. The building is totally inadequate. You need to take a tour of the building. It's literally falling apart.
Has it not been cared for at all in the intervening years? Has it been ignored?
Well, I can't tell you exactly what the engineers have done with the building, but I can tell you this, that a building that's 65 years old, that has not been from the bottom up re-engineered and renovated is going to be old. I mean, the HVAC systems are going to be old.
And there's some
the American for Disabilities Act steps in here because it is not compliant with ADA. I mean, there's all kinds
I've
of
spent some
problems.
time in that courthouse, and the thinking behind courthouses has changed radically. I mean, you do have situations where prisoners and witnesses or victims can come across each other in the hallways there because there aren't back passages that are secured for prisoners in criminal cases. So the thinking has evolved by leaps and bounds since it was built in the 50s or so. And it's, you know, I don't live there. I practice there from time to time. And it's anybody who has walked in there will say it's time.
Over in Kansas City, Missouri, Patrick, this $800 million bond issue is to repair infrastructure issues. Is this an example of previous city councils not taking care of the things that needed to be cared for?
Certainly the things that they want to do with this money in Kansas City, Missouri are necessary. It's infrastructure. But we already have a high property tax in Jackson County. The Brookings Institution found that Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties have higher property rates than the counties around them. So what are we doing with the money we pay? Kansas City is a high tax city. We have a high sales tax, a high property tax, plus an earnings tax. And yet the city is not providing the basic services like roads and street repair. So I understand they want to come at us and say, well, this is for a good cause, but why are we having to borrow money to provide basic city services? And I think the answer is because we've diverted so much money to developers that there's nothing left in the pot.
Cynthia, what do you think about this $800 million bond issue in Kansas City, Missouri?
I'm going to kind of take my Johnson County fellows sort of idea that sometimes infrastructure is more important than our school and education, and I don't mind the tax increase. But the question I would raise is, what are the population disparities and differences between Kansas City or this particular county and the other counties that Patrick is making reference to? The number of people in here who actually work and the number of people who come from the outside in and utilize our roads and all of our other services. Somehow we have to find a creative way to make everyone accountable. And I don't take issue with that, and I don't think a lot of voters will. I'm hopeful that they will approve it.
Patrick, do you know what, McInerney, do you know what the top priorities are going to be if this bond issue passes?
I mean, it's my understanding is it's infrastructure that has been.
Well, I mean, but it hasn't been defined beyond
well,
that.
it's sidewalks some places. It's other kinds of
It
infrastructure.
wasn't an article defined as sidewalks, streets,
Right.
and there were
And the
specific
animal
bridges
shelter.
and the animal shelter.
Right. Yeah.
Trust us. The city, trust us.
Well, I mean,
Well,
you know,
sometimes you
we'll
can
fix
and
it.
sometimes you can't.
when you
but
say that the city's not delivering basic services, I think that's a broad generalization.
Well,
I think
we're
the
under
city
suit by the EPA to fix our sewer system.
and we're
And so
fixing
we're not
it.
gonna fix
And
it?
we're financing
it took a
and we're fixing
lawsuit.
it.
It took a lawsuit to do it. We're a city of fountains. We can't operate the fountains in our city.
We do very well at basic services, do very well at police protection, at fire protection, at roads, at bridges, at sidewalks. But you're exactly right. Those have been deferred. The pretty stuff has taken precedence, and the basic stuff's been deferred. And now we're paying the tab.
Wrap it up with Steve Rose. Any problems for the issue in Johnson County? Some people, I think, have complained about the $145 million that goes to the cities to use as the cities decide.
Well, the state law provides that when a sales tax is implemented in in any county in the state of Kansas, a third of that money goes back to cities within that county. So there's really no choice about that. I assume they'll use it well for sidewalks, for police protection, and for the other things that
You
cities
expect
do.
it to pass?
I think it will pass, yes. I do.
Patrick, do you think the one in Missouri will pass?
I suspect it will, but they're going to have to fight for it.
Okay, now we head to the soapbox for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes condone or disown people and events in the news. And we start first with Patrick Tuohy.
Well, I'm very happy to toast Steve Vockrodt and his colleagues at the Kansas City Star for their reporting in the past few days about the proposed downtown convention hotel in Kansas City. What we learned from that story is that when developer Mike Burke and financier Steve Ratner told Kansas City Council a year ago that they were ready to go, that they knew the cost, that they had the financing in place, none of that was true. Not only was it not true a year ago, it's still not true today. If developers and their fans in Kansas City want to feed at the public trough, they owe us more transparency and some forthrightness.
Mr. Rose.
I'd like to roast a governor-appointed task force that just came back with a ridiculous recommendation that the state of Kansas no longer will come up with a monthly estimate and compare it to the estimate that was made before. That all they want is a comparison to the year before, but not to budget. Every company every organization I know of has a budget, and they compare their revenue to the budget. And to just do away with it is a scam.
Patrick.
I'd like to roast the current administration for their lack of response, stunning lack of response to the Syrian crisis. We've been talking a lot about local issues. I think when we step back and take a look at this, I think in 5 years, I think in 10 years, in a generation, this is going to be a Rwanda type situation, and nobody is stepping forward, not us, not anyone.
30 seconds, Cynthia.
I'm going to raise my glass to Children's Mercy for supporting the Amendment 3 tax that is directed towards health care for children and education. And I'm hopeful that the citizens of Kansas City will vote yes.
And finally, my quasi-toast goes to Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson for his good health regimen. His doctor reports Johnson exercises every day, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, and he has the stamina to serve as president. But Johnson rarely gets more than 10% in the presidential polls, and as another candidate for that office might put it,
what difference at this point does it make?
and she's right, it doesn't make any difference in the case of Gary Johnson. And so that is Ruckus for this week. We're back next Thursday at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.
Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.